Oh, and Scott is the first in the room. How's your throat today, Scott?
Better.
Good. That's what we like to hear.
Still coughing a bit.
Ah, okay. No worries. Morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Morning, Jamie.
Good morning.
Morning, Sue.
Morning.
Jeanette, are you still over there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just too much for me, this. When do you go home?
Friday, I'm going to have to miss Friday because I'll be on a plane.
Well, fair enough. I suppose I can let you off for that one.
Or I could just stay if you like. That would be
No, it's too much.
I
Good
don't know.
morning. Morning, Susan.
Morning, you alright?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Morning, Leon. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we've got Kenny, Susie, and Z who are just sorting out their microphones and cameras. Oh, there's Susie. Morning, Susie. Good to see you.
Morning.
Morning.
Where's that pup this morning?
He's looking out the window.
Is he waiting for the postman?
Yeah, I think so. He keeps, they're all missing you today.
Yeah.
You coming to say hello? No, he's looking out the window.
No, not interested. But they always do exactly what you want them to do, don't they?
Yeah, most of the time.
Morning, Kenny. Good to see you.
Morning.
Good morning. I've never worked out yet, Kenny. Are you in bed or are you on a sofa?
Sofa.
It's a sofa. Because I thought maybe you just sort of lent your hand down to the side of the bed, picked
No,
up
it's,
the shirt, and away
Back
you
to the
went.
couch.
The couch. Cool. Are you
I
there?
just I'd let you see the sun, Sue, Sarah.
Oh, please. I'd like to see it. Go on.
Oh, they are beautiful blue sky.
Oh. Oh, is that a villa?
Yeah.
Oh, is it yours? Can I borrow it?
No, I'm afraid it's not mine.
We're now all disappointed here because I think there was going to be a mass message in chat saying me too, me too, me too.
We've got
It's
two
lovely.
nice. It is. And we've got a wee bedroom there and a wee bedroom there. And, oh, it's lovely.
You are the new Judith Chalmers.
Absolutely.
For those of us that are old enough to remember her.
There you are.
Lovely.
Isn't that pretty? Now we can go down to work.
Yeah. But it is lovely.
Thank you.
Susie, you're flashing again. It's probably because you're sitting next to Leon. As soon as anyone gets near to Leon, they start flashing. You have to excuse. Excuse Susie's flashing.
That must be something about Leon, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a handsome young man, isn't he? But you know, he really shouldn't flash.
I
can turn his camera
Z, are you there this morning? Can you hear us? Is your camera working? I think Z might be in the background today, Dave. He is sometimes.
Yeah, he is.
Hopefully he'll pop his face up shortly. Anyway, good morning, Dave. What are we up to today?
Okay, morning everybody. Ticket session 5 today. Okay, so we think by now we will know where we're starting. So if we go back to page 8 of the course book. So after quite a content-heavy session last time, they're not getting too much online this time. So they're getting an email with a link to a webinar on how to prepare for the session, and an email with a link to 3 more webinars on the goals for driver education. So they're getting quite a lot of information on the goals for driver education. Okay, so if we turn to page 54 of the course book, and we'll have a look at the content of module 5 from the PDI's point of view. So in this module, you'll continue to develop your driving skills, develop your ability to give a commentary, and develop your instructional skills. You'll also be planning lessons on use of mirrors and use of signals, planning lessons on manoeuvres, completing exercise 7, manoeuvres, and watching 3 further videos on the goals for driver education. Okay, so modules 1 to 4, when we were looking at their driving, we didn't look at their manoeuvres at all. Okay, and now we've got a whole session which covers manoeuvres. All right, the whole session. So don't worry about those, not having a look at it before, because you're going to see an awful lot of it today. All right. Okay, then it says we want them to plan lessons for all of the manoeuvres: turning in the road, left, right, reverse, reverse park, driving forwards into a bay and reversing out, pulling up on the right hand side of the road and reversing 2 car lengths and moving away. It's got a little bit of information there because this course was brought out just before the changes in 2017. So you will see reference to the changes in December 2017, which of course are now well and truly in place. And we are looking at the 3 core skills of control, observations, and accuracy. Now, control is an abbreviation. Can anybody tell me what the full? Yes, Scott.
Is it coordination of foot controls?
Nearly. You're nearly there. Leave out the foot.
Coordination of controls.
Yeah. Coordination of controls, because it's steering, handbrake, gas, clutch, foot brake. Yeah. So it's coordination of all of the controls. So control is just an abbreviation of coordination of controls. All right. Brilliant. Good. Okay. And there's just a little blurb there about building up resources. And then if we turn over the page, we've got an outline of in-car session 5, which we'll be looking at in detail. And then turning over the page, we have exercise 7, manoeuvres. So this is what we would like them to complete before attending in-car session 5. And we've got a couple of scenarios on each of the manoeuvres, and we would like them to come up with their answers. And then we want them to get in the car and actually practice the manoeuvres following the steps. All right, so if you want to have a couple of minutes just to have a quick look through there, not in any detail, but just to get the gist. And as I say, it's always a good idea to do these exercises yourself, just so you've got an idea of what it is we're asking them to do.
You got a message, Di, in chat.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, I've just found it now. So, but that's great, thank you. Yeah, that's probably better than what I've got actually. Okay, everyone got the gist of that? Yeah, cool. Righto, and then we are turning over the page in, and we have a developed driving assessment, the old style assessment sheets, and then turning over the page again, we have the action plan. Okay. Any questions on the course book? Good. Yes, Jeanette?
Why is the old style assessment sheet in that particular place, Dan?
No particular reason, Jeanette, really. It's just, again, it's just this, you know, no assessment sheet really is in there for any particular purpose. It's just to show the PDI the different ways that you know, things are assessed. That's all.
Okay. Do we explain it to the PDIs?
Not in any detail. Not in any detail, no.
Just kind of comparing?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's
You know,
fine.
assessment really is of no importance to us.
No.
To know how we're being marked. Yeah. And when they've had a look at the old one, they can sort of see the likenesses between the old one and the new one. It's clearer in the new one. Yeah. That's all really.
Thank you.
Hello? Don't ask me any more difficult questions like that, please, Jeanette. No, you go ahead. I don't mind. Okay, righto. So let's move on into the guidance notes, and we'll have a look and see how we are going to deliver this session. Righto. So let's have a look at the learning outcomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 learning outcomes apart from the what to practice when they go home. So we've got what needs developing in their driving, how to develop commentary driving skills, how to use active listening skills, how to use different levels of instruction using mirrors, signals and manoeuvres as a platform, and how to ensure the pupil fully understands how the responsibility for risk would be shared and what to practice when they go home. How many competencies have we got, please? Jeanette says 1, Kenny says 1, James says 1, Nick says 1. Yep, everyone agree with 1? Anyone got anything different? Cool, okay. Which broad area is that one competency in, please?
Risk management.
Yep.
Risk management, fab. So we have worked our way through lesson planning. Yep. And we're now starting on risk management. So we've talked about how to set the lesson up, what to do if the plan isn't working. Yeah. So lesson planning really is all around the goal. And risk management, of course, is all around the risk. Okay. Good, okay. So let's have a look then. So initially, We're going to have a conversation with our PDI, just refer back to their action plans, have a look at the exercise they've done. You can look at it now, or you'll get a chance to look at it later on anyway. It's completely up to you. Set your goals for the complete session, so just an overview of the complete session. And then, of course, at the beginning of each learning outcome, we're setting goals for that outcome. So we're going to have a look at their driving again. All right. So we're going to discuss the driving and the commentary. Going to go for a 1.5 hour drive. 1.5 hour drive. We want to discuss the route with the PDI, get them to give you some ideas, or get them to work through it as to what sort of route they think you need. What sort of drive are you looking for? Jeanette?
Something that takes in all the areas that they'll be doing in the Part 2 test, so rural roads and motorways and urban roads, and
Great. And how would you expect them to drive?
at the standard required for the Part 2.
Good. In a business-like fashion.
All right.
Okay? That's the terminology they use in a Part 2. Yeah? In a brisk and business-like fashion. All right. So in other words, don't help, get on with it. So they're not on a Sunday drive. They need to really focus on the drive and just get on with it. All right. So when they have the opportunity to reach the speed limit, they should be reaching the speed limit as quickly as they can. Yeah. Good. Okay. Because we are also going to complete the developed driving marking sheet and give feedback and development. All right. So if you'd like to have a quick read through that section, you can read actually down to how to use active listening skills, because again, it's just having another look at their commentary drive and making sure that that alert and form is well in place now. All right. So just have a quick read through there. We're still not looking at manoeuvres at this stage, by the way. All right, everyone happy with that? Yeah, fairly straightforward, everyday stuff. Good, okay. All right, so if nobody has any questions, we're going to have another look at active listening. So give you another chance to practice your active listening skills. So can anybody remind me, please, what are skills that we can use for active listening? Anybody?
Nodding.
Paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing?
Repeating back, summarising.
Yep. Anything else?
Body language.
Yeah.
Nodding and smiling.
Well done. No clues there, Susan. Good, okay. So, nodding, smiling, repeating back, paraphrasing, summarising, yeah, and silence. That fabulous silence. Yeah, good. So we were just practicing those skills last time, but we are going to take it a stage further this time. All right, because really there was no pressure on us. All we had to do was just listen to the story and, you know, show that we were listening. And we discussed the benefits to the person who's being listened to, and also the benefits to you, because you can actually hear what might be the root cause of the people's problem. So now we're going to make it a little bit more challenging for you. We're going to do a similar sort of exercise, only this time I would like, please, the person telling the story to give as many details as possible. The time of day, the colour, yeah, what day of the week it was, how many people were there, all right? I want as many details as you can think of to put into your description of things. It is the person who is listening's job to note those details. And I don't mind how you do it. You can hold it in your head. You can write it down at the most opportune moment, of course. Yeah. It's up to you how you remember it. But it is those key phrases that I want, or that key information that I want repeated back, and I want paraphrased, and I want summarised. So at the end of each conversation, I would like the conversation summarised by the listener with as many details as you can remember. Okay? Everyone got that? So it's a little bit harder this time, so you're still using your listening skills, but this time I want you to listen to the detail. Okay? And the observer can give them a mark out of 10 for how much information they remembered. Okay? So short stories, don't have to be long, 2 or 3 minutes, with as much detail as possible. The coach has got to remember as much detail as they can remember and summarise it back to the person they're listening to, and the observer has then got to mark them out of 10 as to how many of those things they have heard. So the observer's going to have to listen as well. All right. Okay, everybody understand? Okay. We're going to give you plenty of time. We're going to give you 20 minutes. All right. So have fun. Try and get as much information. God, don't be kind. Put in as much information as you can. Make it fun.
See you all in 20.
See you soon. Happy listening.
Is she expecting each one of us to tell a story and do a round robin, or just one of us?
Round robin.
A round robin, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Right. Shall I go first and tell a story?
If you want to.
Yeah, okay. I'll make a start. So,
Okay.
Who's going to be the listener?
sorry, Jimmy?
Who's going to be the observer and the listener?
Yeah, who's going to be the observer in this one?
I don't know. Jimmy, what do you want to go for? You take your choice.
I'll be the observer then, go on.
Okay.
So you're going to be the observer, Jimmy,
Yeah.
and Kenny's going to be the
Maybe listening.
listening. Okay. So a little story. This morning, I went out of my door, and it was quite cold up where I stay in Inverness. I was feeling cold, so I had to put on a scarf. I walked past my neighbour's house, and I seen that their dog was coming out as well. So I said hello to the dog, and hello to the owner of that dog, and we exchanged some pleasantries. I then took my dog up to the woods, and I further met several other dog walkers, and I exchanged one pleasantry with another dog owner. I noticed that the path that I was walking on was very, very muddy, so I'm very glad that I put on my boots, my walking boots, rather than just another pair of normal shoes. I also I was aware that this time in the morning now it's getting a lot brighter, so it's nice to get into the woods, whereas I wouldn't normally have that chance. I would have to walk around the block of a number of houses, so to speak. Anyway.
How early in the morning to go out?
Sorry?
How early in the morning do you go out with your dog?
Well, it all depends. Round about 7 o'clock, 7, half 7, I go out with my dog. And yeah, I normally go out for about 20 minutes, and so Poppy, who normally likes walking in the woods, she prefers the woods rather than walking around the block, because there's many more things to sniff, and she can meet other dogs and greet other dogs as well. And she seems to enjoy it a little bit more, because I can understand from her wagging her tail and bouncing about and so forth that, she likes it up in the woods. So I'm just trying to think. So after completing the walk, I came back, made myself a cup of coffee, put on some toast, and made my wife some coffee as well, and just prepared myself for what was coming for the rest of the day as well. Looked at my diary and just kind of mentally prepared myself to what I was going to have for the rest of the day. So I think that's almost about everything. That little kind of captured. Did you capture? So is she
Nice morning walk. Nice morning walk for you there. Bit on the cold side, but good to get out when it's starting to get light there at that time.
Okay.
A nice fresh and nice morning at that time there, so gets the blood going at that time. Nicely wrapped up still in your scarf there at that, because it still is cold. Still too cold in the morning to be anything else than that. I like how you greeted the neighbour's dog first of all, before you actually greeted your neighbour.
Okay.
That's the way it should be.
Yes.
Definitely the way it should be there on that.
Absolutely.
And Poppy had a good time. Poppy had a good time sniffing around everything in the woods there at that. So
Yes. Fantastic.
I hope you made Poppy some toast as well.
Well, she grabbed the remnants, I suppose.
Right, I observed there, nodding. He was nodding a lot. He was smiling a lot. You asked him a question as well about your paraphrased. Good eye contact.
Yeah.
So that's what I've seen. That's what I observed.
Good.
Right.
Excellent.
Who's telling? Should I tell the story next?
I'll tell a story next. Because who's wanting to listen on this one?
Since you observed last time, Jamie, I'll do the observing and you do the listening. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
See, mine is also dog walking related, but there's the slight difference here, in that it relates to the perils of actually talking to me in the morning on it. Last summertime, starts getting nice. Obviously, in the morning now, when it gets to summertime, the sun's out early on as well there. So, getting to about, again, 7ish in the morning, out with my dog. He likes to just have a wander about on it there at that time. But I'm still a grumpy sod at that. Quite freely admit it. No hesitation there in that. Anybody that even dares approach and talk to me, unless I've got a dog with him, has got no chance. But there's always some idiot that's got to take their chances on it there. So, I'm out. It's early on. I was feeling a bit dodgy as well last year there, so I had the sunglasses on at that time as well there. And Rocco's just walking ahead of me, as he does, having a good sniff about there. And there's this usual one that just walks everywhere in the morning. Walks everywhere all day, in fact. Because it's summertime there, he's out in the shorts and t-shirt himself there at that point.
Has he got a dog?
Sorry?
Has he got his own dog as well?
No. He's got no dog. He just walks around all day. He'll walk, presumably into town somewhere at that time then, and just keeps going on. Wouldn't be so bad if we had a dog, because at least it'd be a kind of common ground. But no. He decides to have a go at me for having sunglasses on at that time. Now, as I say, it's June, July time on it there, so we've got the sun nicely out at that time of day there. It's bright, and I'm just, because I'm not quite with it as well myself at that point in the morning, it's a bit of protection on the eyes. So he starts to try and talk to me. And he starts to try and go on about how, don't need to have the sunglasses on at this time of day. Yeah, I do. At that time there. Thank you very much on it. And then, for some strange reason, he proceeds to offer me a drag on whatever he's got with him there at that time.
Bit early.
Yeah. Jog on, matey boy. Don't even bother me in the morning again there. So by this point, I'm now into a bad mood for the rest of the day already at that time. So, thanks very much for that. Lovely day, spoilt already by that.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Every village got one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a couple around by me as well. Yeah. You always hear them in the morning. Walking up a street with their flagons.
Biggest surprise was he didn't have a can with him as well, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what should we do now? What did you observe, Michael?
Yeah, I observed, well, when Kenny was telling the story, I noticed that you were smiling as well. You kind of followed that with a smile. And then I noticed that you were listening intently, so there was a nice bit of silence. So Kenny was telling the story. I was followed up by silence. And you also followed up with a little bit of a question. Does the person that Kenny was talking about, you wanted to know whether he had a dog or not, and Kenny said no. So you kind of followed up with a nice little question there to kind of, Phil, let me know, or let anyone else know that was listening that that person didn't have a dog. And there's a nice bit of silence, and you kind of concurred and validated what Kenny was saying as well. So I think that tied in with the narrative, what Kenny was saying as well. So it was quite nice, to hear you listening and just coming in every now and then, just by acknowledging that you were listening to him as well. Yeah, that was a good point. You just come in nicely at various juxtapositions, just to make sure that you were listening to him. So yeah, it was good. Yeah, enjoyed that. Thank you.
Nice story.
I wish it was. Oh, that guy pisses me off.
Okay, so 3 weeks ago, I finished with Red Driving School. I've now got my own car, so I'm now independent. I got a red Peugeot 208 GT. It's going busy at the moment. They turned up last night, 7:30 in the night, to pick the car up, the Red Driving School one. It's sad to see it go, but gotta take a leap sometimes.
How long were you with them? How long were you with them, Jamie?
With Red, I was with them for 1 year. It's about a year and a half old, 2 years altogether, but the first year was just a training part. I've been with them on a pink license for a year, like 45 a year now.
Okay.
It was great, it's just expensive, that's all. Much better off on my own, I think. One of my pupils passed the test +6 this morning.
Oh, lovely.
He had 3 minors.
How did you feel about that?
Great. It's always a good feeling when you're passing a little minor.
Good, well done.
And then I dropped him off, come home, and put Zoom on.
Great.
And here we are. So that's my little story.
That's great. Well done. Fantastic. And congratulations on your pass this morning. 6:30 in the morning that there was a test.
8:30.
8:30, sorry, I beg your pardon.
8. I had 6:30 as well, then I was terrified on that one. So.
No, I picked him up at 7:20, and this test was 8:20. I always pick him up.
Okay. That's wonderful. Fantastic. Good. What did you pick up on that, Kenny?
Nicely nodding along with him there, Michael.
Thank you.
Smiling with him there at that time. Coming in with the question, how long were you with Red?
Yep.
Yep. Want to just develop it that little bit further there on that, so extracts that little bit more information there at that time. So I tell you, I thought it was 6:30 in the morning as well, that test site. So
So did I thought you said 6:30, Jamie.
No, I won't wait early.
I was wondering what time you got up. I was going to follow it up by, what time did you get up this morning?
I went to about 6:30. No, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
still too early in the morning there for that. If you're thinking 6:30 in the morning for a test there, so. But yeah, we're all leading in nicely on it there and just extracting extra information and just pulling it all out there at that time. And God, see another one's left, Reg.
Yeah.
Was you with him?
Started with them, yeah. Started with them, done that first year with them, and then couldn't get out there quick enough.
Yeah, all me.
Have you set up your own website then, Jamie, or are you just established enough just to garner enough business on the back of what you've already done?
Yeah, I got my Facebook page, and I'm just turning people away. There's so many people.
Wow.
I'm turning people away here. Red hasn't given me a pupil. Red didn't give me a pupil for the last 6 or 7 months. They were all self-sourced.
Oh, really?
That sounds familiar.
Goodness me.
And every pupil they did give me, they charged me £45.
Oh, gee whiz.
They're very expensive.
Yeah.
Gee whiz.
Good to get your foot in the door, I suppose. The training was alright.
Yeah.
That was it. It wasn't the best, I mean. I've done a lot of CPD since I qualified.
That's good.
Yeah, I wouldn't go back anywhere near Red myself, so would not touch them there at that time. So, but it was one of those. It was a starting point, wasn't it? So
that's it. Yeah, I would have done a bit more research before I done it. Before I went with Red, I just like the same old thing. There, you see a big advert and it looks good, and they promise you £900 a week and all this.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose that you feel with the information that you only have when you're starting off that it's incumbent upon you to start with these, a Bull Plant or Red or LDC, because you know that's all you just know, isn't it? At that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'd known then what I know now on it.
Yeah.
You become wiser for it, don't you, sir?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you get to know the industry a bit better, you understand them, and it's all money making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once they started to get the franchise fee, and that was it, they lose interest.
Yeah.
So,
£1,000 a month just for the car,
Gee whiz.
just for the franchise.
of course. Sorry, just having a. The dog, he's just scratching his collar and just making constant noise there. So,
What kind of breed is Rocco, Kenny?
come here, you. Come here.
Come on, let's see him. Let's see him.
Here he is.
Oh, he's lovely. Is he a lab? Is he a lab?
Oh.
Tell him to smile
Okay,
to
yeah,
camera.
All right. Nice one.
Better PDA than what I get.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you there.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
this
lovely.
is the hound. This is the trouble up mill.
Camera's under there, so.
I know.
I was expecting to see a Rottweiler or something like that with a name called Rocco.
No, he's just a slobbering hound.
Yeah.
Uh,
He's lovely.
You want to see my Rottweiler?
yeah.
Yes, come on. Let's go. Jimmy.
Ah. Really.
Oh, fantastic.
The miniature one.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. What's his name, Jimmy? Or her name?
Eli.
Eli. Fantastic.
I got another one over there, Nelly and Eli there.
Oh, great stuff.
Probably see him in the picture behind me. Oil painting at it.
Of course, behind you. See at the beginning there, guys, when Di was saying with this will come webinars and such. Does that get forwarded to you when as each in-car session happens? Yeah.
I think you can get them off the website, she said.
Oh, right now, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. In the members area, I think she said. I was wondering that as well.
Okay.
I don't think we get exactly the same thing as what the PDIs get, because otherwise we could just obviously just rip off the ticket stuff totally there at that. So it's a slightly modified version, I think, of it. So
Okay.
I'm sure I remember them saying that from the previous ones of these. So just otherwise we'd go and take their stuff and just
Of course.
pass it
Yeah.
off there without needing to actually have
Yeah.
them purchase the stuff. So we can't have too much left in here. Are you independent then, Michael?
I'm kind of semi-independent. I'm with not with a franchise. I'm just with a local chap, and he's kind of semi-retired, and he brings in the business for me. I could go on my own. He brings in the business, and I give him a nominal fee of about 70 quid a week, just to, to give me all the business, and the business is just flowing in.
Is my mic?
Susie, did you lose your connection?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's not you. I think it's my. But is my sound working now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you lose it quite early?
Yeah.
Okay. Not to worry. We will start with your group to see how far they managed to get with or without you.
I managed to get quite far with them. I was doing because I lost the audio. I was doing the observation.
Oh, excellent.
So I have got some stuff written down, but only
Brilliant.
got to like just a little bit of Leon's story and then a little bit of Sue's.
Okay. Right, so we had Sue and Leon and Susie together.
Yeah.
So how did you get on?
We wasn't sure who was going to be spokesperson because we thought it was the one that was observing, but I can do it, it's fine. I listened
Lovely.
to Leon's and Leon listened to mine. So he put a lot of information. I'm glad I've written it down because there was loads and loads and loads of information there.
Excellent.
Very specific, very to the point,
Okay.
very animated, very interesting actually. So do you want me to give like a brief outline of what he said?
Or actually, what I want is a brief outline of how you found it, trying to keep the rapport and the skills that you were using in order to keep that rapport. Was it more difficult because you were having to specifically identify things? Did you find that sometimes that the rapport was harder or easier to keep?
I'd say harder because of having the need to write it down, the specific, even though I bullet pointed it, I still thought, how am I going to remember this in a real life situation where I haven't got that ability to be able to jot things down because you don't want it to look like you're not paying attention.
Okay, but before you go further with that, so has anybody got any ideas of how you could go about doing that? Because you're right. So, you know, sometimes it's difficult, isn't it? If you're actually writing things down, you almost stop listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has anybody got any ideas of how you might manage that in a conversation like that? Yes, Jeanette.
Well, we kind of discussed the fact that we could butt in and kind of paraphrase, you know, so you're saying, so let me get this correct in my head, or do you mean whatever? You know, so you could do that, but then the other says, well, that would maybe stop the flow of the pupils' thoughts as well. So we weren't 100% sure.
Okay.
But, you know, what we found, I mean, the actual content was brilliant. You know, Kenny got 9 out of 10, and God, that's terrible. Nick got 8 out of 10, but the actual skills were gone. There was no eye contact. There was no rapport. There was nothing. They were too busy writing things down.
So let me throw something out to you. All right. How about if in a sort of a natural gap, you might say to the person you're listening to that what you're saying is really, really interesting. Can I just have a minute just to make a couple of notes? And then we'll come back. And then once you've made your couple of notes, you can then paraphrase, or repeat back and say, okay, so this is where we were. So am I right so far? Great, okay, then carry on.
The problem was the pair of them never came up for breath. There was no natural gap to do that.
Yeah.
It is difficult, but it is about taking those little gaps, those natural breather gaps, and you know, with body language as well. So, oh, okay, just for a moment, just that little polite butt in, and it just stops someone in their flow, so that you can make sure that you can successfully record and understand what they've been saying.
And your attention could be straight back on them again.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, you know, in this situation, it is artificial. You know, in a conversation you're having with either your PDI or a pupil, it's a little bit more natural, isn't it? and it's not as quick, and it's not as yeah. But so therefore, it is a little bit easier to find those natural gaps, and just to yeah. All right, good, okay.
Lovely.
So
Anything else there, Sue, in your group?
I told a story to Leon. I'm not sure what he thought of
Leon.
what I gave Leon 9 out of 10, just purely because of like how interested and how much information he gave me.
Okay.
I don't. He thought I did in terms of listening, because like I say, I'm locked
over
out.
to you, Leon. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say a 9 out of 10 also. Steve gave me a really interesting story, and in fact, she told me a story about something I was quite interested in as well, actually. So I was actually kind of into that hobby. So it's, yes,
Now
9
that's
out of 10.
interesting, isn't it? Because when you're having these conversations with your pupils or your PDI, it is something you're interested in, and so it's quite likely you're going to be listening harder because it's something you're interested in. You've asked them a question, you know, you want to know the answer, so therefore you're interested in that answer. Yeah.
Well, however, Leon, did you fall into the trap of finding that you were so interested in what she was saying that you forgot that you were supposed to be using your skills? Or did you manage to consciously think, no, I'm going to be...
No, I kept it conscious that I'm actively listening. So I was even trying to, nodding, smiling. I was even trying to add in some questions back just to clarify, and trying to get more details out of the story as well. Details that I was curious about. But what I tried not to do is I sometimes have a habit of, oh yeah, I did that too. I had an experience, and I didn't. I tried not to make anything about me this time, and I just purely actively just kept it to her story and asked about her story. And yeah.
Excellent. It's nice that you noticed an area that you struggle with in natural conversation, that you've managed to work on in this listening conversation. I think that's great, because that's something that loads of us have the same issue with, wanting to contribute, because we are helpers, aren't we? And we naturally want to contribute and tell our own story. So very well done. I like that. Did you feel listened to, Sue?
Yeah.
What was it about Leon when he was listening that made you feel listened to?
Because when he asked the question, it was a question of a statement that I've literally just given.
Cool. So you were reassured that he really was paying attention.
Yeah.
And not just faking it and nodding along and not really listening.
Yeah.
Lovely. Very well done, that group.
Sorry.
Okay, well, have a look at... Sorry, bear with me. Susie, did you have any comments to add to that now that you're back there?
No, I was the observer, as I say, because I had sound problems, I couldn't talk, so I just listened. What I did notice was on Leon's story, amazing hobby, by the way. Sounds really interesting.
Interested in what the hobby is now.
Yeah, what is it?
It is. I'll tell them, because obviously I've written it down because I was listening to you. It's called RC, or radio control. He flies a radio control plane. And yeah, just like, it's, let me see. I've got it all written down. 1/5 of a scale. But he was flying it and the engine exploded. The motor exploded, sorry. So he lost the ability to fly it. But he managed to get it down on the ground and recovered it safely. And the repairs cost more than the actual plane itself. So that's the thing I do remember.
Expensive hobby, Leon. Expensive hobby.
Yeah, very expensive hobby. And his friend has got a car that he races, and he crashed the car too on the same day. So not the best day.
Cool. So observing, Susie, what skills were you seeing in both of their listening?
I would say Sue didn't really. I mean, we both just listened to the young because it was so. I was really interested as well because it is something. But Sue didn't jump in or anything. So she probably did really well listening and writing notes as well. So I would say I would give her a 9 out of 10 for listening, but then she didn't butt in or anything like that, and then I kept adjusting it, so that's when I kind of lost it. Sorry, I was.
No, that's fine.
You did really well, Susie. Thank you.
Sorry.
You did really well. No, that's great. Thank you. Room 2, we had Jamie, Kenny, Michael, and Z in the silent background. So really, Jamie, Kenny, and Michael. How did you guys get on?
I observed Kenny with Michael's story. I observed him, he was nodding along with the story, smiling. You could see just by looking at him, he was listening. He asked a couple of questions as well, he paraphrased. He didn't butt in about anything about himself. The questions were to keep the conversation flowing. That's what I observed anyway. And he remembered quite a lot as well, the dog's name, what he had for dinner. So he just repeated that back.
Excellent.
Excellent.
What
That's
score
really
did you
nice.
give, Daniel?
Say again, Di, sorry.
What score did you give him?
9 out of 10.
Excellent. Excellent. Cool.
So, who else was in that group? So we got Kenny and Michael. Michael, how did it feel about being listened to when you were telling your story?
Yeah, it felt a little bit strange just because of going through the kind of role play. But once I got into it, I felt, there was a semblance of being natural, so to speak, of what I was trying to convey. So yeah, I felt that Kenny was giving good eye contact to me, and he was almost along the same line in terms of when he told his story, there was a correlation to what I was conveying to him as well. So it kind of matched in, not during when I was talking about it, but when he told his story, there was a correlation between the two of us. So that was nice to feel that. But yeah, certainly felt listened to. And he followed it up by asking a question that he wanted to know for himself as well. And I gave him that information. Yeah.
Excellent. And who did you who did you observe, Michael?
I observed Kenny. I observed Kenny when Jamie was listening to him.
Okay, and how did that go?
Yeah, that went well as well. There was our stories. There was a little bit of smiling. There was, when I was listening to Jamie, I really wanted to come in quite early and ask, what was the question again? How long were you with that firm, so to speak? But I just held back and just let Jamie get into this flow of what he was trying to convey to Kenny and I, and then I followed it up when there was a little hiatus in his break of what he was trying to say as well. So that was good. I was quite chuffed because I was quite an impulsive person, saying what was happening there, so that was quite good. I was quite glad that.
And what skills were you observing when you were the observer? What skills were you observing in the listener?
Their body language, I suppose, and how much silence there were between the listener and the person telling the story as well. So I was quite interested in that silence going on, but also an active listening taking place, and that was validated by a follow-up question as well. Yeah.
In that silence, what was the body language of the listener?
The body language of the listener, I felt that the eye contact kind of validated to me that they were intended, and they were listening attentively, and they were gesticulating, or Kenny was gesticulating towards Jamie by nodding intermittently as well. Yeah.
Lovely. So what score?
Sorry, that just broke up. Nine out of 10. Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Lovely.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. So Kenny, what did you observe when you were the observer?
Well, it was Jamie was telling Michael about what was going on in it and how he changed details on that there. And you can see Michael, you could see with Michael, he's holding back. He's letting Jamie just speak there, first of all. You could see there was the temptation to want to get in, but let Jamie tell what he's got to on that there. Let him volunteer the details on it there. Michael's active in it. He's active in without being verbal into it there. So there's the interest. You can see it there. He's sitting forward on it. He's not just kind of leaning back and just every which way. He's paying attention to what Jamie's saying there at that time. So Jamie would see that at that point. There's somebody's here. They're actually listening to me at that time there, not just wandering off into their own wee world at that time there.
Excellent. So, did he use the repeating back techniques or paraphrasing?
He did, yeah. But as I say, once he'd let Jamie speak there, first of all, he started to bring the details back into it there, paraphrasing what was said at that time there. So he's getting it all back there, just confirming that, the details were correct on that there. And then picked up on an item in terms of timing there and just clarified on that at that time there. So just to make sure we weren't talking about ridiculous hours of the morning that we should still be asleep at.
Excellent. So what would you score him for his active listening skills there, Kenny?
Again, a nice solid 9 on that one there.
Lovely. Excellent. It sounds like your group did really well on that.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Excellent. So the final group. So we've got someone who's on the other side of the world. I mean, does that count, Di?
No.
All right. We'll have Jeanette. If she talked about her holiday, I apologise, Nick, Scott, Susan. I am really sorry.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Did a lot of listening.
Absolutely. So we didn't actually fit in, all 4 of us. So I bowed out. I was the observer. But as I said before, what we found was it was very much down to getting the detail, from everybody, and not so much about the paraphrasing and the head nodding and that, which is, because we talked about that, that it was actually really quite hard to get that detail and write it down, so it is much easier in the car because you do have these kind of more normal breaks. So you can, pin something if you don't want to talk about it at that particular time, or you can reflect back or paraphrase, or which makes it much easier. But we actually found that we talked about it and said that it was actually quite unnatural and quite difficult, doing it in this way. And we decided that that's why you had done it, because it was very unnatural. And as I say, Kenny and Nick, were like, Scott and Nick were like steam trains. They didn't really come up for air. But it was very good. It was very good. I'd say that the content, the reflection back of the content was much better than the body language. The body language kind of lost its way a bit.
Excellent. Susan, did you have anything to add to that?
Pretty much the same thing, really. It's that when you were watching, because the people speaking, including myself, were telling so much detail and story, it was almost like we need to remember everything that they're saying rather than.
Yeah.
So when you were telling that story and you were putting in all the detail, the person who was listening to you, what did you observe about them?
Like they were trying to remember what I was saying, so that was good. like as if that it was more a case of almost noting down so that they didn't forget what I was saying.
So did you think they were struggling with what you were saying rather than you being at ease?
No, I felt quite at ease, yeah. But it was a writing it down thing, because obviously when they're writing it down, they're not looking at you.
I'd smoke coming off my pen.
Who are you listening to, Nick?
I was listening to Susan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it was a very full explanation of what's gone on. And yeah, I defy anyone to get it all down.
Did you feel a little bit overwhelmed?
I knew I'd get there. There's only sort of like one thing I struggled with, and I think that's an accent thing.
What accent are you talking about?
I didn't understand one thing, and another thing I just missed.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
Nick, were you looking to pause her at times so that you could record that information, or did you feel a little bit like you were in front of a runaway train and you just had to keep going, kind of thing?
Yeah, a little bit like at the runaway train, and it's like, when can I actually butt in and say, whoa, can we have a minute? And it's picking that moment.
Were you to do that again, would you do that differently?
Good question, Sarah.
Very good. Yes, I probably would, yeah, because I'd get halfway and say, like you said earlier, and I've noted all of that down, can just have a moment to ensure that that part is correct, and then we can move on.
Excellent.
So, yeah, but we kind of got there.
Sorry.
But all of the interaction disappeared because you were so, like
intent.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a very different type of discussion.
Lovely. Scott, how did you feel about it?
When I became the observer, because I started off like writing stuff down, so we had a conversation based on the amount of detail we were trying to take. So when me and Jeanette were observers, I think Jeanette agreed for detail, she would capture it, and I would be like more observant. And I knew I'd forget everything because my memory's terrible. In thinking about if Nick had an opportunity to step in, I could actually see the smoke coming off his pen when he was in. But there was a point where Susan, when she was telling the story, she got to a bit that made her giggle and laugh. So I think if you did have that face-to-face communication and Nick had recognised that as an opportunity, if there was that face-to-face, he could have been engaging, laughing along with her, maybe spotting that as a point to step into. Because we took it from the point of let's get as much detail, we were, both me and Nick were too busy writing stuff down and there was no engagement at all. So, but like I said, we did have the conversation as a group afterwards and discuss all of that. And, it was interesting.
Excellent. Well, I think you all have worked so hard on this. This is lovely. Honestly, you guys have done brilliant. Can you see the benefits of teaching your potential driving instructors these skills? So that they're using them with their students? Because this is what it's about, isn't it? It's being able to transfer these skills to the person you're training so that they can have those kind of relationships and use those skills with their learner drivers.
Can I add something in as well?
Yes.
I noticed it just happened that when Susan, I apologise, Susan, because I haven't written down when you were talking, but when she was talking about her vans and going on holiday, because you were going out to pick 2 vans, she was talking about the black and blue van, I believe you were talking about. So I linked it to the black vent and the blue top you're wearing. And then did you say one of them had a brown interior and one of them was it tan and white?
Yeah.
So the
Oh,
brain
I
interior,
remember.
I looked at the brain wall, and then I looked at the brain wall was also kind of tan, and then the white surrounding your window frames. So I was using what was behind you. You were linking all the colours you mentioned were on screen.
Ah.
So I was
That's
linking
clever.
that as well while I was listening.
I like it because you're recognizing techniques that are working for you, Scott, that will
Yeah.
help your memory.
Yeah.
And accepting they're not the way that everyone else will remember. You know,
Yeah.
some people like Nick will like to take copious notes in order for him to remember. Some people, you know, like you, are very visual and like, you know, being able to see and relate things in a visual way to help your
Yeah.
memory. It's great, isn't it? I love the way that your different learning styles come out in this, you know, and again, in helping your trainees, you know, your trainees will have learning styles that they will prefer, but they need to be able to adapt to all of them. Their students will have various different learning that they need to be able to adapt to their way of learning as well. This is brilliant. You guys have done really good.
Yeah, Kenny, I want to know that as well. Put something in the chat. Susan, did you get the van?
Yeah.
And was it the black one or the blue one?
It's brown with white and tan inside.
Oh,
Very
lovely.
retro. Fabulous.
Nice.
Okay, so it was a good exercise. Yes. In the real world, when you are with your PDI or your pupil, why is it so important to listen to what they're saying? Why? Why do we do this? What's the purpose?
To work out what they actually need.
Which is what?
Sometimes to work out what they need rather than what we think they need.
So what sort of words are we listening for?
Well, they say things like, could be anything, like, oh, I feel I was too fast, or I think, or the language that they're using, and also whether they're looking engaged or looking like overwhelmed, or...
Okay, so that's body language, isn't it? Yes, we're listening to body language in a weird way, because we're looking at it, but we're also taking that information in. So we're making sure that the words match the body language. Yeah. So what else are we listening for?
The emotion in their words as well. What emotion are they put into that words?
Yes.
That might have that would further give a clue to what they're actually trying to convey, because not all people are good communicators.
Yes.
You know, some communicate in a non-verbal way, or some can accentuate an emotion to a word. Yeah.
Because at the bottom line is we're not really interested in the story. Okay? That's the thing. We're not interested in the story. What we're interested in is what they say within that story. So in other words, if you said to them, okay, how did you feel as you were approaching that junction? And I said, I felt all right, but it was just when I was coming to turn right, I was just a little bit concerned about that car behind me. So what you want to do is you want to pick up that emotional word, that concerned word, yeah, and investigate that more. Tell me a little bit about that being concerned. Yeah.
Rather than, you said that it was all right.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. Well done. I'm glad it was all right. Let's ignore the fact you're concerned a little bit. That'll go away. That's fine. Everyone's concerned. That's all right.
Yeah. Pick it up. Investigate a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more about that. Okay, what's going to make you less concerned? It's not your problem to fix. Yeah. You can't fix that problem. Only they can fix that problem.
There's risk management as well, in it, managing the risk.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no, but I mean, let me give you an example. Okay, Jamie, let me just give you an example. Let's say that generally your pupil is really, really good at turning right from a major road into a side road. Really good. Yep, they get the approach speed right, their point of turn is right, their speed is right, everything is lovely. On this particular day, on this particular busy road, suddenly they cut the corner. Yeah? So it's sort of not normal. Yeah, it's not natural. So traditionally, we would pull them over and we would go through those core comps. Yes, traditionally. So we'd say, okay, so what's the issue here? So while we're analysing it, we might say, all right, so where is your point of turn? How do you judge your point of turn? Okay, so let's go around the block and we'll do it again. Yeah? Traditionally. Would that work in this situation? It wouldn't, would it? But if you go around the block 10 times, the next time they come into that situation, the same issue is going to apply. But if you had a conversation with them and said, oh, okay, did you notice you just cut the corner there? All right, so tell me what you were thinking or how you were feeling as you came into that junction, because it's not normally something you do. So now we put our listening ears in. Yeah. And they say, yeah, I'm normally really good at this. I don't really know what was going on. I said, okay, so just describe to me what was happening as you were coming into that junction. Yeah, I was okay, but I was a little bit anxious about that car behind me because he seemed to be coming in really quickly. And I thought if I could just get out of his way, that I wouldn't get in his way and he can carry on his merry way. I didn't really want to stop. I felt a little bit anxious about stopping where I was. Oh, okay. So tell me a little bit more about that anxiety. What was causing that anxiety? Well, I thought that if I stopped in the middle of the road that he might not see me and bang me straight in the back. So I thought I whipped across the road. That'll be all right. Okay. So what can we put into place to actually reduce your anxiety? What needs to happen for you to feel less anxious? And they might come back with, well, I need to know they're not going to actually hit me. Okay, so let's now look at it from a different perspective. Let's imagine that you are following somebody down the road. You see their right hand indicator go on. What are you doing to plan for that? Oh, well, I might slow down and I might move slightly over to the left if there's enough room for me to go by. And what if there isn't enough room for you to go by? Oh, well, I'm prepared to slow down and stop. Great, okay. So what are you expecting that car behind you to do when you indicate right? Oh, well, they should slow down and they might change position. Great, okay. How will you know? Oh, well, I could check my mirrors. Oh, okay. All right, well, let's try that next time we go around. Is there anything else you could do? Or maybe I could start to slow down a bit earlier. Give them more time. Great. So let's go around the block then, and let's see if that works for you. How much help do you want with that? Can you see the difference?
Much better, yeah.
If you don't deal with that anxiety, the problem will never go away. Or it will all the time you're helping them with it. But the moment they pass their test and they get into that situation again, that'll come rushing back. And you're not there because you haven't dealt with it. Yeah? Does that make sense, Jamie? Yeah? Get what you're saying about risk management, and it is in the situation, yeah? But then we need to train for the situation. Yeah? You want to say something?
Sorry, Dad, can I just say, so you would focus on the anxiety, so you wouldn't say anything about maybe the consequences of them cutting the corner, or would that be for another time?
You could do. You could say, you know, what are the dangers of what you just did? Are you aware that you cut the corner? What are the dangers of that? So let's have a look at this. Yeah? Okay? Because if they're normally pretty good at right-hand turns, they probably know the consequences, but that moment of anxiety blew all that out the water.
Yeah.
They don't care what happens to them as long as they get out of the way of that car coming in behind them. Yeah, because that's what happens, isn't it? When you get anxious, everything goes, I don't care, it's a fight or flight, isn't it? That's what happens when you get anxious. It's a fight or flight. Yeah, everything shuts down. Yeah, so yes, it is risk management in the moment, but then we have to train for the next moment.
Because I would tend to talk for a short time about the consequences, but then look at, you know, why they did what they did, which is what you said.
Yeah. So it's drawing it from them, yeah, because, and you know, you can't fix somebody else's fear. You can't,
No.
you can't fix. We want to say, okay, well, if you do this, this, and this, then that'll sort it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if any of you have got a phobia, let's say one of you's got a phobia of heights, yeah, and I said to you, right, we've got a fire. The only way out is upwards, and we've got to get off the roof. And you go, no, I can't do that. Why can't you do that? Well, I'm frightened of heights. Great, okay. So, in a perfect world, what needs to happen in order for you to be less fearful of getting off that roof? In a perfect world, it could be absolutely easy. And let them come up with a list of things that they would need in this imaginary world. Yeah? Some of them aren't possible, and some of them might be. And then if you say, okay, so if we tried this in, would that help you? Oh, yeah. But if you suggested something, would it be the same?
Mm-hmm.
Are they still going to feel frightened? Of course. Because we haven't dealt with it. We've just dampened it down. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what this active listening is all about. This is the whole reason why we do it. Because sometimes it's not about easy as behaviour. Yeah, people don't have accidents because of bad behaviour. It's not because they don't know how to drive. It's because there is some emotion or some belief behind it which has caused the behaviour, and it's that we need to address.
Yeah, exactly the same. Exactly the same when people say, I sat in the back of the test and I didn't recognise the student that was driving. They had never driven like that with me in the car. They're normally brilliant drivers. I sat in the back and I was just cringing the whole time. They did things they've never done before. And they blame that on one thing, don't they? Nerves. They were nervous. Rather than actually getting to the root of the problem and the emotions that the student was going through and helping the student find their solutions to those issues. All you've seen is a change of behaviour, and you've jumped right past the student to the cause of that is nerves, rather than actually dealing with the individual student themselves.
Which might be life pressures, you know.
Yeah.
Their job might be depending on it. You know, they might be going off abroad somewhere and this is their last chance to take their driving test. It could be anything. It could be.
They could have had a bad morning that morning. That they could have listened to a horror story of somebody else's driving test the day before. They could have misinterpreted the mood of the examiner. They could, you know, 1,000,001 different reasons for their behaviour being different from the behaviour you're normally seeing.
How many instructors
lump
actually
past
say
that.
to their pupils, "Oh, you'll be all right if you don't have Mr. So-and-so. He's got a really bad reputation." And then, of course, they're sitting in the waiting room, and Mr. So-and-so comes out, and they go, "Oh God, that's it. I'll failed."
But again, you know, do not leap past that student with your own with your own reason for why that student has behaved that way. You need to individually address individuals and help those individuals overcome their individual reasons.
And this goes for PDIs as well, part 3. Yeah. Anyway, we have to move on because we've still got quite a lot to go through, but I hope that was useful. Yeah? Good? Okay. All right. So, if you would like to have just a quick read through that paragraph, it basically is just describing exactly what you've just done. Okay? All right. Okay then, so we're moving on to, so give them time to go back to those, don't forget, I'm not going to keep saying it, but at the end of each learning outcome, remember to go back to those action plans, give them time to reflect, all right? It's really important. You've done the practice, let them reflect and think about how they might develop any weaknesses, all right? Okay, so moving on to the next learning outcome then, how to use different levels of instruction. So we're still using levels of instruction. This is the 5th module now that we've been working on levels of instruction. Huge, yeah, it's a huge skill. Okay, so if you haven't already, have a look at their lesson plans and check their exercise 7. They should have lesson plans for mirrors and signals. Okay, so just discuss and recap levels of instruction. And you also want to discuss with them the difference between telling and asking. I mean, what is the difference between, you know, the statement of check your mirrors to asking them, is anything to your left? What's the difference? Well, the first one is rote learning, isn't it? It's rote learning, yeah? They might look at the mirrors, they might look through the mirrors, but are they looking into their mirrors? Are they noticing what they're seeing? Are they looking for what they're supposed to be looking for? Yeah, so you might say to them, how close is the vehicle behind, just before they start to brake? Is anybody coming to your right? So it's getting them into the thinking process of why they might need to use their mirrors in particular times, rather than just check your mirrors, check your mirrors, check your mirrors, check your mirrors. Yeah? That's good. All right. Okay, so I would like you, please, just to have a read through that. It is really just thinking about these levels of instruction, okay? When you've read through it, we'll have a bit of a chat about a couple of points in there. Okay, has everyone read that? Yeah, everybody got any questions? Okay, could you pop your hand up, please, if you have a diesel car? Susan, Scott, and Kenny. And Michael, yeah?
No.
Right, can one of you please describe to me how you would teach clutch control in a diesel?
I teach it the same as petrol, but I explain the differences that diesels are generally more torquey and more powerful. The gas is just...
What is the same? Sorry, Scott. What is the same way as petrol for you?
Well, again, it's for... I get them to a stage where to set the gas, listen for the tone, bring the clutch up until the tone changes. That's some kind of find and bite, but get a feel for it as well. And then before set off, because the tone's changing, I explain that that's the load's being put on, so give a little bit more gas when they try and find drive off. But I tend to find that in the diesel car, students do, it's probably the wrong choice of words, become a little bit lazy. They stop using the gas pedal as much because they find it will just move off. They don't want it over revving.
Yeah. What about if you want to move the car really, really slowly? Really slowly, for example.
I do that as well. Like I find that a lot of my students do use just the clutch, but again, whenever, like during maneuvers especially, but I get them, we do have conversation, and I always say make sure you're constantly hearing that lively hum of the engine, because I've actually burnt out a clutch in my old diesel Ford Focus. It was another instructor told me, he says, you teach your students not to use the gas when you're doing maneuvers, don't you? So how do you know that? He says, because you just told me you changed your clutch. Yeah. How much did you spend? I told him it was about $2.5 grand right before Christmas in December. And he says, no, he says, if you use the gas pedal, he says, you'll find your clutch will last a lot longer, which didn't make sense to me. I'm not a mechanic. I thought if you're using the gas, that's going to burn the plates out more. He said, no, he says, you'll find it'll last a lot longer. So I've been doing it since then.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
You've got diesel, Kenny? How do you do slow maneuvers? Slow. How do you get the control in a diesel?
Get them to get creepy with it. Reach for the, find the bite. Where's your gas on it? Bring it up with it there. So, what's it called? It's a seesaw.
Yeah, okay.
One up,
between
one
the
down.
gas and the
One up, one down there at that time. So,
okay, brilliant, good. Leon?
Yeah, I mean, I teach in a petrol, so, but yeah, always start off by, telling them, look, set the gas, get your revs up to just under 2,000 RPM, try and hold that, and then what you'll find is as you bring the clutch up to the bite, you'll find that those revs will drop, and you just got to try and hold that balance until it's just moving at a snail's pace, and keep your feet nice and still when it's at a snail's pace. If it goes too fast, just dip the clutch a little bit. If it's not going fast enough, just lift it up a little bit, millimeters by millimeters.
Perfect, thank you. Susan?
Yeah, similar, same thing really. It's just to feel it themselves really.
Excellent.
Sometimes just take them to flat road and then just get them to just feel it rather than explain. Can you hear the sound of the noise? Let them just discover it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Jamie?
When they're reversing, I get them to cover the brake and just use the bite.
Okay, I was waiting for somebody to say that.
Cover the brake, just in case they brake up too fast, they're already on the brake.
Okay. And I was waiting for somebody to say that, Jamie, so thank you. You brought me to that quicker than I expected to. Don't do that. It's not best practice. You can get away with it in a diesel. There are so many driving instructors who either don't use a gas or use a brake and clutch. You're asking the car to do two things. You're asking it to stop and to go. It can't do both. And you might be skilled enough to do it. your car may be forgiving enough to do it, but you're not doing it a lot of good. But what happens then when your pupil goes and buys a petrol car after passing a test and they can't drive it because they keep stalling it? We have to train best practice. And best practice is clutch control. It involves gas and clutch, not brake and clutch. If you're ever using the brake to control the speed of the car, the clutch should be fully down. And it should only be used when you're going downhill. Flat roads, uphill, gas, clutch. Downhill, clutch down, brake. It's best practice. And we have to train best practice. Okay? So many driving instructors use it with diesels, and they really, really shouldn't be. As Scott says, it'll kill your car, for one thing, and it is very expensive. So you're not training best practice. Okay? So if that is the way you're training, Jamie, stop now. Okay? For your sake as much as anybody else's. Okay? Good. I always have to talk about that because it seems to be natural practice now. It's like, you know, when things are changing on the road, you know, how if you go back maybe 10 years, it was very, very rare that you are overtaken on the left on the motorway. But now everybody sees everybody else do it, and now it is common practice that people overtake on the left. And that's why it's called undertaking. Yeah? That's why it's called undertaking, because you normally end up in a coffin. It's against the law. And yet people do it because everybody else does it, so it must be all right. Yeah? So this is why I have to try and nip it in the bud when I can, because, yes, there are a lot of driving instructors who do it, and a lot of driving instructors who talk about it. And there's a lot of pupils that I see who do it as well. Don't do it. It's bad practice and very expensive. Okay? Good. Okay, I'll get off the soapbox now. Right. Okay, any questions about that particular learning outcome? Are we okay with that? Yes? Brilliant. All right. So we are going to move on to the last one of this session. It is the first competency in risk management. But before we go into this, I want to take your minds back to your Train the Trainer course. And you were introduced to a model of goal setting and risk management. Do you remember it? Everybody, stick your hand up if you remember it. None of you. Wow. How many of you have heard of the model for goal setting and risk management? Where have you been?
Is that the triangular one?
It is the triangular one, Susie.
3 balls on it.
Described. Fantastic. Okay. Right. In which case, thank you, Leon. Yes, that's exactly the one. Fabulous. Okay. Guys, this is something you really need to know. This is something that all training is based on, whether it's learner drivers, whether it's PDIs, whoever it is. It's what it is all about. Because if you can get this picture in your head of what comes under goal and what comes under risk and what our job is, you're there. If you can't separate goal from risk, we're in trouble. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to run through this with you very, very quickly. Okay. But as Leon has just showed you, you have got it. If you want more information about it, Have a look in practical teaching skills. There is a really nice section on there about the the model of the goal setting and risk management. It's the end of a session, Jeanette. What can I say? Okay, so let's have a look at this. Right, we're gonna have a look in there. We will. Get rid of that. I can't see. Because the thing is anyway. That might be not complete that. How do I move that?
Are you having difficulty?
I can't because I've got the panel across the top of the screen.
Yeah.
I can't get to.
Does it work if you click on slide 2 and is it Control F or F5 or something like that? I think that just pulls it up.
What it is, you know, the bar is
Yeah.
at the top. I don't know why it's gone to the top.
Drag it.
Yeah, drag it. Maybe it's under more.
Guy, do you want me to share my screen? I can put that model
That's
up.
all right. Got it.
Yeah, cool.
Got it. Okay, guys, can you see that?
Yeah.
Everyone got it?
Yeah.
Yep, good. Okay. Right. So, this is the complete. All right. So, this is the instructor input. This is, you know, people say to you, what do I need to do? What do I need to say? Okay, so this is instructor input. Our job as the instructor is to help the people achieve the goal. So to give them a clear path to achieve that goal, we move and manage all other obstacles in order for them to reach that goal. Alright, so that's it really in a nutshell. So, instructor input. So what does this include? This includes learning takes place when the lesson is well planned so that people achieve their goals. Okay, so where does the lesson planning come in? And the lesson planning, doesn't it? Yeah. The what, the how, the where, the what do we do if the plan doesn't work? So we identify the learner's goals, we agree the structure, we confirm suitable practice areas, and we adapt if it's not working. So we've gone through that, we know that. So we know that lesson planning is all about the goal, helping the pupil to achieve the goal. And if the plan isn't working, we need to change the plan. We've talked about it, we understand that. So the goal of the session needs to be SMART. Yep, Jeanette. You're muted, hon. Okay. Okay, so we know about SMART. Yep. Okay. So we've talked a lot about levels of instruction. Guided, prompted, independent. This is the instructor's input. Yes. Then we look at the risk. So we know how we can input to help our pupils to achieve the goal through levels of instruction and through that lesson planning of having a good plan of what we're going to do, what we need to achieve, how we're going to achieve it, where we're going to achieve it, and is the plan working? And if not, then we tweak the plan. That's the input to help them achieve the goal. So we've made this fantastic goal and plan, and now we don't want anything else to interrupt that plan. So this is our job, to clear the path, to stop anything else from happening that might interrupt them achieving the goal. And this is where risk management comes in. So in order to manage the risk, we share the responsibility for the risk of the pupil. We give clear and well-timed directions. We observe the pupil and the surroundings. We step in verbally or physically appropriately. And we give sufficient feedback for any safety critical incidents. Do you recognise that? Yep, as a competencies of risk management. This is how we manage the risk. All right? By doing that, we're actually this is where the core competencies come in. When we're talking about the goal, we do the core competencies, but we do that through what went well, what didn't go so well, what needs to change. Yeah, we draw that from the pupil. But with core competencies under risk management, it's old core comps. It's us. We need to deal with it. Yeah, and sometimes that might just be identification and remedial action. And we'll talk about the analysis once we're stopped. But we've got to nip it in the bud. We've got to stop it. Okay? Identification, analysis, remedy. And then to complete the triangle, the instructor input is based on achieving the goal. Managing the risk so that people can achieve the goal. So these are your teaching and learning strategies, and all they come in. So these come in right across the board in both your lesson planning and the risk management, because that is how the pupil achieves the goal. Okay. So those are all your competencies. And there you have the final product. Okay?
I use that quite a lot just to explain what we're doing in a driving lesson as well to pupils.
Yeah.
Say, look, we are managing your risk to get you home safely. We've got to manage your risk, and we need to do this, this and this. And when people are coming up to a test, we go through this and say, look, when you get in your car and you're driving and I'm not there, you've got to manage your risk to get to your goal, to go to the shops, go to university, blah, 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 because otherwise you're not going to get to your goal.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to, and let's make a picture for them and they kind of understand it. And then
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm just going to stop the share for a minute. Hang on a minute. I don't want to do that. There you go. All right, so I want you all the way through the training, and whenever you're teaching, whenever you're training, keep that firmly in your head. Teamwork for you and your pupil to achieve the goal. Yep, it's your pupil's responsibility with your help to focus on the goal. In order to help them to focus on the goal, it is solely your job to clear the way, manage the risk, so that nothing else could possibly go wrong to interfere with them achieving that goal, because then it messes up the whole process. If you allow something to happen, then you've done all that preparation, and now something has interrupted it, and now that might actually take priority. What a shame. All that hard work gone down the drain. And because we fell asleep, we weren't focusing, we didn't get in time, we've allowed it to happen. Yeah. Now, on a part 3 or on a standards check, yeah, provided you deal with that safety critical situation, and if you have allowed it to go too far, you've dealt with it, it's okay, but you'll probably lose marks in risk management because it's your fault. If you don't deal with it and you just let it go because it's not part of the goal, you'll probably fail. Yeah, that makes sense. So goal is priority. That's what you are just focused on. Yeah, and your pupils should be focused on. Everything else, clear it out the way. Stop it from happening. Do whatever you need to do in order to prevent it from happening. And don't forget that the things that your pupils do well normally might deteriorate because they're focusing on something else. So don't expect them to be able to deal with situations that they're normally quite good at, because they might not. You might just ask a question. Are you alright with this, or do you need some help? Does that make sense, guys? Stick your hand up if it makes sense to you. Yeah? So, if you don't know that model, please make it your friend. Get to know it. Understand it. Put it into practice. Yeah, because it is all training is about. It's what it's all about. And if you can keep it in your head, it makes everything a lot easier. Right? So, with that in mind, we're now going to have a look at the first competency under risk management. And this is how to ensure that people fully understands how the responsibility for risk would be shared. And this is before the wheels start moving, isn't it? Yep. So how many ways do we have of managing risk? As an instructor, how many different ways have we got to manage the risk? 3, says Nick. Anybody got any advance on 3? Okay, Nick, do you want to come up with your 3, and that might give other people any ideas if they've got anything else?
Well, fully, you'd give them. I would take full responsibility of observations and everything, and their only risk is to move the car, and I will check everything else around me.
Okay.
The second would be that they would undertake more observations, and that I would check them, but also I would double check, but they can start taking some responsibility for those risks as well.
Yep.
And thirdly, they would be taking the whole risk, but I would be checking that their risk management is correct.
Fabulous. And that's a great description, Nick, in individual cases. You know, if we're doing a particular exercise, you know, if we've got to our training area and we're doing this short repeatable route, yeah, that is, you know, you're particularly working on something specific within that, then that is a brilliant description. And it is definitely a way that we would manage risk. But let's imagine, you know, that you are outside your house and you need to drive to your practice area. You've gone through that lesson planning, and I've come up with this practice area which is sort of 5 or 10-minute drive away. What would you say to them before you moved away?
how would you like to manage the risk of this? What level of instruction would you like?
Okay.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
sort of done that in the lesson planning, haven't we?
Okay.
So that's part of the structure of the lesson.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what are we going to say to them of how we're going to manage this risk before we move away? What methods have we got to managing the risk? How do you manage a safety critical incident? What are the two?
Move them over to the side of the road and have a talk
So
with them.
physically by using the dual controls. How else?
Watch them. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go.
Verbally. Right. So there's two methods. Yeah. So we can manage the risk either verbally or physically, if it's safety critical. Is there anything else that we can do before it gets to that stage?
Ask them.
What?
Okay. Ask them. Yeah.
So I could have got a lesson at 12 anyway.
Sorry, who said that? What was that? I don't know what that was. Okay, so we can ask a question. Yes. We can, if that doesn't work, yeah. If it does work, done. No more action needed. Fantastic. All sorted. Yeah. If it doesn't work, then we need to step in with instruction. But now it's safety critical, because if we hadn't have stepped in, then it would have developed, wouldn't it? Yeah. And if that still doesn't work, if your pupil freezes or can't hear you, then you need to use your JULS. Is there anything else that comes before asking a question? What do we need to be doing in order to know that we've got to ask a question? Yes.
Watch them.
Watch. There you go. So there's your 4 levels of risk management. Watch, ask, say, do. Watch, ask, say, do. Now, if you can get in at the point of watch, so you see a hazard ahead, you look at your pupil, what would you expect your pupil to do if they were going to respond to that hazard? Yes, Jack.
Well, say it was maybe a parked car ahead.
Yeah.
You've clocked the parked car and you'd be watching your pupil and you'd expect them to check the mirrors and start to move out.
Exactly. And even if they don't check the mirrors, the likely is there will be a decrease in speed.
Yeah.
It's really what people do, isn't it? They see something, they go, oh, it's a natural instinct. Yeah. So if they've seen it, hopefully they're going to slow down a little bit and check the mirrors. Bonus. Yeah? They will definitely ease off the gas. So that's how you know they've seen it. And if you know that, you don't need to worry about it. Yeah. But if you see something, you look at your pupil and go, okay, not sure about this. How are you going to deal with this car?
Tell them.
Yeah, I need to check my mirrors. Great, sorted. Risk dealt with. Yeah. But if you look at them and they go, and you go, okay, how are you going to deal with this car? And they say, oh, I'm not really sure. Okay. Talk. Yeah. Get them around it. Safely. And if they go, I don't know, then you're just going to slow them down. All right? So it is important, isn't it, that your pupil understands what you're going to do to manage the risk before you move away. It's just so you can say, right, all I want you to do is to keep control of the car to the best of your ability, and I want you to focus on your goal. I am going to look after everything else. If I see something I don't think you've seen, watch. I'll bring it to your attention. Ask. If necessary, I'll jump in verbally or physically. As you know, I have dual controls. Yeah? So all you're doing is you're just giving them an outline of how you're going to manage the risk. Because now they can relax. Now they can focus on their goal because they know you're looking after the car. So it's all very well coming up with that statement at the beginning of the lesson, isn't it? But if you don't do it in the lesson, then we've got an issue. Because now your pupil's never going to trust anything you say again. So if you allow a safety critical issue to happen, they're going to say, well, where were you? What were you doing? That was your job. Yeah? Does that make sense? So this is what this means, really, okay? At the beginning, it's just about letting them know how you're going to manage the risk. Okay? If they're on the drive from where they're starting to where they're going, there's a roundabout that you know they've got issues with roundabouts. They know they've got issues with roundabouts. You're not working on roundabouts today. It's something else. You've got to think about how you're going to manage the risk. And this is where this comes in. So what options have you got? What options could you give your pupil as to how you're going to get to where you want to go? Yes, Jeanette?
You could decide or agree between you that you can guide them through the actual roundabout. Because it's not the goal for today, I would tend to guide.
Yeah, and be honest about it. You know, just say, look, we both know you've got issues with roundabouts, and we've got to get round this roundabout in order to go where we're going. How do you want to do this? Yeah, I can talk you all the way through it, or if you prefer, when we get to the roundabout, I'll drive you through it and you pick it up on the other side. That's managing the risk, isn't it, guys? And that is what you agree before you start to move. How are you going to deal with these things? Yeah? How are you going to deal with this? So this is what this means. So it's not a statement at the beginning of the lesson, which a lot of people think it is. This is about, you know, letting the people know how you're going to manage the risk and making sure you do it by using all of those competencies in risk management. Yeah, because if you're not aware of the people's actions and you're not aware of your surroundings, there goes your first level of risk management. Boom. That's why most people, you know, that's how a lot of driving instructors end up hitting their dual controls all the time, because they have no idea what's going on around them. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. All right. So let's have a look and see what it says in the driving instructor's handbook. I know that we're running a little bit over time, but I think it's been worthwhile. Okay, so overall risk management. It's vital that all parties in any on-road training session understand and are clear about where the responsibility lies for the safety of themselves, others in the vehicle, and others on the road. You are responsible for the safety of yourself, the pupil, and other road users. You are also responsible for developing the pupil's awareness of risk and the ability to manage it appropriately. So, did the trainer make sure that people fully understood how responsibility for risk would be shared? Check that the pupil understands what is meant by risk. Discuss with the pupil some of the issues that can create risk, such as alcohol and drugs. Well, that depends on the situation. They're not expecting you to mention alcohol and drugs every time you go on a driving lesson. Okay? Explain clearly what is expected of the pupil and what the pupil can reasonably expect of you. Check that the pupil understands what is required of them when there is a change of plan and they are asked to repeat an exercise. So this is what I think Nick was talking about. Address the issue of risk management. Give correct guidance where responsibility lies for the management of risk. Explain how dual controls will be used. Don't undermine the pupil's commitment to being safe and responsible by agreeing with risky attitudes. Make sure the pupil understands what role you are going to play when repeating a manoeuvre or carrying out a particular exercise. Okay? So if if the responsibility for risk changes, then they've got to know, haven't they? So you know, if you want them to be responsible for more or less, then that's got to be discussed with the people. Yes, Jenna.
I had a situation. I had actually had a PDI in the back of my car, and we'd driven up to the pupil's house, and when she got in, she'd phoned me to tell me that she'd hurt her back. So I said to her, you know, have you taken any painkillers this morning? And she said, I've taken paracetamol. I said, so what have you been prescribed by the doctor? And she said, Tramadol. And I said, so you've definitely not taken any Tramadol? And she says, no, because you told me last night not to. And the PDI says, I would never even have thought of that.
Risk management, fabulous. It's a really good example. Really good example. Yeah, thank you for that, Jenna. All right, so is everybody clear on that first one? Yeah. Because if you want an example of the statement, you can have a see it in ADI 1. I think they give an example in there for both a learner driver and a full license holder. Very similar, but just the wording was very slightly different about what's expected of them. Really. Right. So if you want an example, have a look at the ADI 1 and you'll find one. All right, so if you would like to please just have a read through that section, and that will bring us to the end of this session.
So I said, I'll say to him, look, I've got the machine ready. All you have to do is when you come home, put your dirty clothes in the washing machine and put it on. I'll get it ready for you. I've got everything ready now, everything's packed. So, still in my camera. So wait for you to come home. I'll feed these guys lunch and before I go. Yeah. And then, dagger. Yeah, I've lost my dagger that I do my threading with. I don't know where it's gone.
Okay. So, have you all learnt something today? Cool. Good, that's what it's all about. Alright, well, don't forget then, just go back to the course books now, just make sure you sign off the progress record. The session with them. Go home and do your feedback form. Alright? And then the system can pick that up and send out the next lot. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you all for your input today. It's been fantastic. I really enjoy these sessions where there's loads of people because you get loads of input and it's really nice. And I think you guys get quite a lot out of it as well when there's more people on the session. So
yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So thanks ever so much, for keeping on coming.
When are we here next time?
I believe Friday. Is it Susan?
Friday.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Oh yes, because Jeanette will be on a plane going home to the cold.
Contacted the PDI I gave her.
Ah, yeah, that's.
Oh, did you give me one?
I did.
Oh. What's the name?
I'll tell you right away.
Did you email me?
I think I might have messaged you actually. Give me a sec.
Lady McDonald from Ireland, oh dear, from North US.
I have no idea. I just know her name.
Is she related to Old MacDonald?
I'm sure I've been in touch with her. No, she doesn't. Oh dear. No, that's brilliant, Di. Thank you. Yeah, I've definitely been in touch.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just a heads up, guys. I won't be here on Friday. I've got a pupils driving test in the morning, so I'll.
Oh, good luck with that.
Thanks. I'll see you guys on the one after.
Lovely. See you next Monday, Liam.
See ya.
Okay, so I'll say goodbye to you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good couple of
Bye.
days.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah, totally nice.
Safe flight home. Jeanette, safe flight home.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye.